Toulouse gives Sharks a harsh lesson in European knockout rugby. My name's Mark, let's talk rugby. We had a minute's silence for Ian McIntosh from Natal Rugby before the game. He sadly passed away from cancer on Wednesday. Condolences to his family and his loved ones. The game itself, we have a frantic start. Toulouse break down one wing, there's a poor pass inside, and immediately Sharks break down the other wing. Sharks then, they kick the ball long and the ball goes just over the try line. Ramos just nonchalantly soccer passes it over to Entamac, who kicks clear. I'm sure some Toulouse fans and maybe coaches probably had hearts and mouths at that point. We then have an upright tackle. It's head on head from Malia on Mapimpi. He's the one that comes off worse from the collision. There were two changes of direction from Mapimpi just as the tackle was about to happen. So we've got mitigation. It's a yellow card, but since Malia is already off for an HIA, the Libes who came on for him during that HIA period is sent to the bin. Bosch then pops the penalty over and opens the scoring. It's 3-0 to the Sharks. We then see a lovely left foot kick from Dupont, which results in a pressure line out to the Sharks in their own 22. They manage to clear, but Toulouse come back at them. And Che then is able to get in there, turn the ball over, and Sharks almost break, but Chamberlain knocks on as he was looking to offload to someone from the floor. Toulouse then completely open up the Sharks from a scrum. They spread it out to LaBelle, who jets down the wing, leaves Mapimpi in his wake. It was some burst of speed from him. He then offloads to Ramos, but it goes forward just at the line. Ramos kind of kicks on a bit and grounds, but the team mode checks confirms that it was a knock-on scrum to the Sharks. Sharks win the penalty at the scrum and are able to clear. Bosch then tries a grubber in kind of around halfway, ricochets off a Toulouse player. Aki collects the loose ball, bursts through the centre. He finds Chituka, and then they work it out to Norsha, who goes over the try line, but Mapimpi was blown up for crossing. Malia then, he returns to the field, and honestly I was pretty surprised because I didn't think he was going to pass his HIA. It looked like, he was sparked out after that clash of heads, and there was a bit of confusion whether it was he or Delibes who came back onto the field. I think maybe Delibes came on for a while, but Malia was certainly back on the field at some stage. We then have a high tackle from Mbanambi on Dupont. It's just a penalty as it was a seatbelt tackle. Obviously, there was, the usual whistles and jeers from the crowd from the replay, but you expect that any home crowd really. Ramos squares us up from the tee. We're at 3-all. Cross then, he gets pinged for offside, and Sharks go for the post, but Bosch drags the kick left and wide. Sharks then, to score a try out of completely nothing. Ramos punts the ball deep. It's picked up, given to Bosch. He runs it back, slaloms through half of the Toulouse team, it felt like, all the way through the traffic, then pops it off to Williams, who has a nice step and then great pace to get over untouched. There wasn't a tackle from Toulouse from the point that Bosch got the ball to the point that the try was scored. And what a try that was as well. It's got to be a contender for the try of the tournament. It's converted 10-3 to the Sharks. They're back in the lead. Toulouse then monstered Sharks in a scrum, win a penalty. Ramos reduces the deficit to 10-6. Then Maufo powers his way through a couple of Sharks players, including Ox and Che. I think Che went off In the second half, he was involved in some big hits out there. But they get the ball out to Entomac. He breaks deep into 22, but it goes forward from Dupont as Ramos tries to offload close to the line. He kind of try to pop it up and Dupont knocks it on. Toulouse, they're playing advantage after Sharks collapse a maul in their own 22. They manage to spread it out wide. Ramos finds Malia, who's definitely back on the pitch now. He does really well to finish in the corner. Ramos misses the touchline conversion. It's 11-10 to Toulouse. Andrews then in at the side of a maul, and it's a penalty to Toulouse. It was really silly penalty for him to give away. Ramos slots that one, and it's 14-10, and that's a halftime score. So Sharks, they were within a couple of minutes of going in at halftime, potentially 10-3 up, and suddenly they're trailing 14-10. They did well in that first half, but Toulouse struck late, and it felt like that 4-point margin could be crucial in the game in terms of like the Sharks taking heart from the fact that they have a lead rather than having to chase the game. Into the second half then, Toulouse kick a penalty into the corner, but Grobler gets up, he nicks the line out and Sharks are able to clear. He did really well, I felt, for Sharks in the line out today. He's another one as well that had to go off injured later. Ramos then tries a drop goal, but it goes wide. It was fairly well in front. I know that we don't see that many drop goals in the game these days, but yeah, kind of expected that he would slot that one. Toulouse then, though, they're looking ominous, and I'm kind of thinking at that time that it's important for the Sharks to hold them out, but then immediately Toulouse, they claim the restart. Malia breaks down the wing into Dupont, and he puts Ramos under the post. He could have finished it himself, but he had Ramos there, so gives it to him. Ramos converts his own try, 21-10. Sharks really need to find a response from somewhere. Kroos then at the restart seems to give them a perfect opportunity. He's offside. Sharks have a period of possession close to the Toulouse line. Koch goes close after a lovely offload from Khaleesi. He gets turned over, but Entomac went high with his tackle on Koch. So penalty to the Sharks. They go to the corner. Toulouse concede another penalty as the Sharks try to mull it over. Toulouse then concede another penalty, but it could have been two because they collapsed them all again, and they were offside. They finally get a warning from the ref. I thought the warning could have come, from the penalty before that at the previous maul, and maybe it would have been a different story because Sharks go back to the corner. They really do need to score here, but Flamand, he steals the line out and Toulouse can clear. Big moment in the game. Flamand was pretty quiet for most of the match, but that was a really big involvement from him there at a crucial point because I felt that if Sharks had have claimed that, and potentially you're looking at maybe a penalty try and a yellow card to Toulouse, and some real momentum to the Sharks. Sharks, they do score immediately after that from the line out from the kick clear. It's spread out to Chamberlain by and then he has the pace to go over in the corner. Bosch converts from the touchline. We're at 21-17. Sharks finally do get the reward that their play deserved, but it took them so long to actually get that score on the board. And it was just, I felt like if it had scored when they were actually down there and putting the pressure on Toulouse, it would have had a very different feeling for, which way the momentum was going in the game. But then again, I'm thinking they now need to score next. But it's Toulouse who strike. Mao Fu, he strips the ball in the tackle. He was like just a beast today. They spread it out. Aki, great step back inside. Then he puts Malia over in the corner. Toulouse take exception to the attempted try-saving tackle on him. We have a bit of a scuffle. Timo checks it and says everything is fine. Converses missed 26-17. It seems like a big ask for the Sharks now, unless they can, conjure something up quickly. Bosch, shortly after he makes a break, they then come further inside and they get it back out wide. Mapimpi, he sides through the Toulouse defence and offloads to Williams to dot down. They're lining up to conversion, but then the French TV director has what looks like a forward pass from Williams about a couple of phases earlier on loop on the TV and obviously on the big screen as well. Crowd are booing. Timo finally calls the ref's attention to it. It's reviewed and it's no try. At this stage then, Van Rensburg, he's the one who put that hit in on MacLeod. He goes off on a stretcher. I don't think he actually returned to the field after that hit. He obviously came off the worst of those. Hopefully, he returns to playing, before the end of the season, because really don't like to see players being out for too long. Sharks then, they win a penalty at a scrum at halfway. They go up the line from that. They've got, another chance for them to get back within the score, but time really is running out. Toulouse get a hand to the line out, but Sharks are able to reclaim it. Toulouse then get pinged at the ruck in front of the post. Bosch pops over the penalty to make it 26-20. Feeling out like Sharks actually do have a real chance now, but again, they've just been kind of nipping at Toulouse's heels without being able to get back in front of them. That chance, though, is short-lived, like any hope, really, because Ramos, he puts in a pinpoint kick into 22. Toulouse, they get themselves a 5-minute line-out. The maul is halted, but Dupont snipes from the back of it. He's just short and offloads to Maubaka to score. It's converted by Ramos, and we're at 33-20. Sharks with a lot to do in the last 10 minutes, but it's Toulouse who, do all the scoring in that period. First try pretty much seals the game as a contest. Mapimpi spills the ball in contact, shoots out like a bar of soap. Toulouse go wide. Then the Entamak comes back inside to Dupont and he puts Ramos over again. It's converted. We're at 40 points to 20. And that's just the difference at this level. And it's something, the Sharks are going to need to learn from. It's kind of rarefied air, and every chance, every turnover can be vitally important in the game. And suddenly, teams like Toulouse can just leave you in the dust. There's then, another score from them. Ratere, he adds another try after good work again from Dupont. Ramos converts it 47-20. Then you think, okay, it's done. At least, Sharks can get out of here now. But no, Entamak, he sells a dummy. Lovely fend then, sells another dummy, and he goes over and scores. Ramos converts. 54-20 is our final score. And just thinking between yesterday's semi-final and today, the cream really is rising to the top at the minute. Let's have a look at some stats from the game. Just want to say before we do, though, that this video should have been up about 2 hours ago, but the first part, the match report, was done straight after the game. This one now I'm doing after Exeter versus Stormers, because when I checked initially after the game, Toulouse and Sharks, half of the stats were missing on the official website, which is really weird. So I thought, okay, give it a while. I just checked again; they're still missing. So I'm going to give you the stats that I could find and that look somewhat accurate. So possession 46% to 54% in favor of the Sharks, And then that's reversed for territory, 54 for Toulouse and 46 for the Sharks. So, the Sharks, they definitely had plenty of the ball, but, it's at this point, at this level of European competition, every attack, has to count. Every visit to 22, every time you get into the opposition half, you've got to, every step along the way has to come out your way. And for Sharks, it wasn't today. Part of that is maybe a little bit of nervousness on their side in terms of making mistakes. Obviously, a lot of the pressure from Toulouse and the occasion as well, getting to them. And, it's something that the players, they have that experience now for the next time they get to the quarterfinal. The problem is with Europe is that getting to the quarterfinal can be ultra competitive, especially next year when we go back to the old pool system, pools of 4. Depending on what structure they go with, whether they're going to have a last 16 or just straight into a quarterfinal, it might be difficult for, teams to actually get back to the quarterfinal, depending on who they get drawn against in their pools. So hopefully, Sharks can build on this in the future. In terms of tries, then 7 tries to 2 for Toulouse. Toulouse just opened them up towards the end, and we've seen a kind of trend in these quarterfinals like that. When one team gets on top, these teams are just ruthless. They just keep piling on the points. There's no kind of mercy in them for the opposition. They just want to score as many tries as they can, and unfortunately some of the games blow out when that happens. Meters made, 449 for Toulouse, 590 for the Sharks. So the Sharks, they were making ground, but again, couldn't actually do anything with it. You need the end product to go along with it, and just all the pieces weren't there for them today. Scrum, 50% for Toulouse, 80% for the Sharks. Didn't have a huge impact on the game. There were a couple of scrums, that in terms of penalties and stuff that had an impact early on, but certainly wasn't where the game was decided today. Ruck then 96% for Toulouse, 98% for the Sharks. So Sharks very good on their own ball security from their rucks, but Toulouse, where they hit you is when you make mistakes and your ball goes to the deck, or they get in there and intercept. That's where they're pretty much the biggest threat. And just like the French team, they're so good at that transition from defense to attack. Next, then penalties conceded, 11 for Toulouse and 6 for the Sharks. So, Sharks on the right side of the referee's whistle today. It didn't really matter though for them. There was that one position I was talking about where Toulouse gave away a number of penalties down in the corner. They get warned by the referee, after giving away, I think it was about, it would have been maybe 4 penalties, but actually 5, because there was like 2 in the one passage of play. And then they nick it. Flamand nicks the line out and they're able to clear. If, they had have been warned a little bit earlier, maybe they would have got a yellow card for consistent infringement, and Sharks might have got to try a little bit earlier and maybe had 10 minutes against 14 that, may have given them a spark of a chance. I still think that Toulouse were definitely the better team today, but, sometimes little margins can make a difference as well. But in terms of the two teams, so Sharks, like the other South African teams that have made it to this stage, or like to the knockout stages, that they definitely are going to learn from this. It's the first year in European competition. It's the first year where they've had to juggle, 2 competitions at the same time as well. Then they've also got to travel, having to come to Europe for their semi-finals, no matter who was the higher seed. I don't think that was fair. I think in the future it should be whoever is the higher seed, that's who gets home advantage for the knockout stages, because I don't see why you can't have semi-finals in South Africa, because whether it's a South African team having to travel up to Europe or a European team having to travel down there, it's still the same for one team. And I think if one team has to suffer the disadvantages of that, it should be the team who has the lowest ranking going into the game. I think that's just fair overall. But yeah, Sharks they did really well to get this far in the competition. They really have improved as the season has gone on as well in the URC. So it's good to see them getting to this stage, but I think it probably was, for at least now, a step too far for them against a Toulouse side who were just past masters in this competition. Speaking of Toulouse then, great win for them today. They have that ability that a lot of the teams that we're seeing making it into semi-finals and finals in this competition have, and that is when the game is tight, that you take your chances and you just keep a little bit ahead, and then once the chance is there to stretch further away, you add on, and suddenly the game is gone for the opposition. There are a handful of teams, I think, in Europe who can consistently do that year on year in this competition. Toulouse are one of them. And also, I think, they're going to Dublin for the TD Aviva to play Leinster. Leinster are in amazing form, but I don't think this Toulouse team are going to fear going to Dublin. And I think they're one of the few sides in the whole of Europe that genuinely would have no fear going to Dublin, because I think they feel like they can go there and they get a win. That we've seen them doing it, going to Thomond Park before as well, with that culture of an atmosphere there and being able to produce the results. So home advantage might have an impact for Leinster, but I don't think it's going to put Toulouse off their game. So I'm expecting an absolutely epic encounter between those two when we come back for the semi-finals.